Hey, I'm Noodle Yeti, and these are just a collection of my thoughts about DLC that I'd like to see in City Skylines 2. First, I'm going to start off with content creator packs. I think they're great. I think they're wonderful. I love them. I think it's such an incredible thing to see coming from a company having that doesn't just accept the modding and asset creation community, but also gives them a way to earn for some of their hard work and obvious skill. Next is my new idea, or from here, it's going to be one new idea that we haven't seen in City Skylines 1, and then it's going to be a few examples of what I'd like to see going forward. First one here is Medical Campus. This one could technically be worked into a university's DLC, but if it's not, it's something completely separate. Some of the effects that it could have would be things like a slight increase to things like citizen health, lifespans, birth rates, tourism, and encouraging education. Now, the first three should be kind of obvious: citizen health, lifespans, birth rates, having all those increased a little bit. But tourism, maybe not so much. So the idea and inspiration I get from these medical campuses is from around me. I live here in Southern California, and we have quite a few of these really large medical campuses here. Things like USC, things like UC Irvine, and a lot of these places that really niche down and study something very specific within the within the medical community. And this is where I get the idea that it could be just tied into the university's DLC, where it studies something very specific and only gives a slight increase to all three of those things. For tourism, it's kind of a two-part tourism where both the people and their families who come for the medical treatment, but also the professors and doctors that come from around the world or around the region to come and study and learn a little bit more. Of course, as your medical campus or your university becomes more renowned in its specific study, you'd get more tourism. And encouraging education. This one would be kind of like you've had somebody you know, or maybe you yourself were ailed by some sort of malady or whatever, and you just want to study and help them pursue their research in that particular field. You've just been encouraged to you've just been encouraged to expand your education. It doesn't have to mean that they become doctors. They could just become nurses. They could just become data entry people specifically for medical stuff. Who knows? So that's my new idea, something we haven't seen. And as far as the rest, it could go two ways. It could be if they include all the main functionalities from City Skylines DLC into the City Skylines 2, or if they don't. Either way, I would like to see three things from each of them. I'd like them to expand the functionality of each DLC. I'd like cross-functionality between the DLC, and I'd like some mod implementation. What I mean by expanding on functions, we'll kind of get into that, and I'll actually start with the examples now, just to kind of give you an example. For Industries DLC, you could add different industries, more than just those four we know. In fact, you could even add sub-industries that require those primary industries or the importing of those primary industry goods in order to make their products. In a similar fashion to the way we see the raw resource production, the processed resources, and then the final commercial goods or unique factory goods currently in City Skylines, now you'll have sub-industries within that. For instance, if we look at the electronics factory, you can make a whole electronics industry from that makes various different things and is used in a variety of different ways, such as maybe the new high-tech office buildings or something. And now you have more control. This one would be more like mod implementation, where, say for instance, you look at the mod transfer manager or transfer controller. You can now control where these industries pull from or choose to not control. Do whatever you'd like. You just have more, you'd have the ability to have more control over your industries. And of course, more unique factories. And this is where I would tie in the cross functionality. Now, I understand some people might not like the idea of cross functionality, because if you pay $10 for a DLC, but you don't get the complete DLC unless you purchase another or all the other DLCs at $10, it might feel a little bad. And I get that. But say for instance you have say for instance you have a unique factory in industries that makes textbooks. This factory can only produce a level of textbooks based upon the average education of your city. But if you have universities purchased, now if that university is focused on something like medical or zoology or engineering, it can now produce textbooks in that particular thing, and it can now make even more money by exporting those textbooks around the world. Next example would be something like Parklife, and you could add different park types. And the example that I put here is cemetery, which would also be a kind of like a cross thing with the medical campus or even a standalone, where it's now this large cemetery park where you can place down headstones, tombstones, mausoleums, and you can even add in things like crematoriums and maybe a building where they go to hold the funerals and things like that, where it not only houses the dead, but also processes them as well. And also more control. There's a mod that I really love, it's called Parkify, and it allows you to put the normal game park assets on park paths inside of the Parklife park zones or parks or whatever, and it actually adds that entertainment value to the park. And I think that is incredible. I love it, and I would love to see that one going forward. And lastly, universities, last example. This one I think would have the most cross-functionality between all the DLCs, such as different departments with zoology, engineering, medical, allowing you to further research all these things, and that they don't just affect your university's renown, but they also affect your city. So the first one that I think I mentioned like 3 times now, zoology. If you have the zoo in your city, and you have that Parklife DLC, or even if they include zoo's base game, as you learn more and more about zoology and your university becomes more renowned for it, it would allow your zoo to adopt different animals that would not have been adoptable otherwise. In engineering, say for instance, you are researching different types of asphalt or whatever road pavement system, and you come across a new formula for this asphalt that is more durable and less susceptible to damage from things like salts and rain and weathering. Now all your roads you build going forward need less road maintenance, so you can now spend less on your roads. Yet again, medical with the medical campus, you can niche down into a specific thing and it would slightly raise all those same things that I already mentioned. I do want to mention that this video is in no way directed at Paradox. Like, I'm not asking them to, or Colossal Order, and I'm not asking them to put any of this in there. This is merely a discussion point for the community. I think these would be great ideas. I really like them. And I kind of want to hear what you have to say, or what you look forward to in the DLC as well. So yeah, thank you for watching. If you disliked my opinions or you disagree with them, make sure to dislike the video and leave a nasty comment, and I will be sure to read it and respond. Thank you. Bye-bye.